Yeah.
I still think obviously trying to get across just
Yeah, right. Yep, yep. Very nice. No, I didn't. That one Randy. So, that was and I have two on the way. I learned this. So are they in Connecticut or? They're. Oh, that's wonderful. I babysat. Nice. How old is the baby? He's 4 months. 4 months. Oh my God. We have a lot of fun. He's just getting almost 6 months. Oh, exactly. Then.
I can't. Yeah.
I was hoping.
So I was flying, but I think
Just that right.
just
Like holding his legs to oh my gosh, he did. Yes. Starts.
Morning, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So when the number 2 arrives, beginning of June. She was my older son, so the 2. Language, that's friends. They will. He showed me that my son and his wife met Austin and went home with me. He wants that. Yeah. With child number 2 also be a boy? Yes. Okay. Okay. Oh, that is wonderful. We'll be happy 1 year or 10 years. My Eric and his wife should already have a oh, really? They had to put their so it was very long. And they just can't pay. They have 15. Usually you get like no, because they're individual areas. They're not. They're not. I joke with them, like, yeah, I heard a bunch of stereotypes and you want to marry.
So
my gosh, so since it was easy for her and she was ready to do it all over. Yeah. That you just really last time she did her. Yeah, that she's like no. Yeah. That's good for that's such a fun, really awesome, exhausting, but a really important reason. Really simple.
Yeah.
It's exactly nobody could tell you or explain it. How many kids do you have? Two. Okay.
they're 3 years apart.
And
You have 2 boys.
I sell people at Great Washington. So we lived tied to from each other. The boys, younger daughter-in-law work. Oh, yeah. The baby goes to work. Sort of well.
This is wonderful. No questions. I know. That is.
So my husband gets to take every night.
So you take right?
Yes.
Yeah. That would be.
Yeah.
That would be, we might not get much done.
Everybody is going and with them. He had, have you ever had Sheila on Cambridge?
Yeah.
Worked with a non-organization for guide dogs.
Oh, yes, I do remember she brought dogs down a couple times to our place.
Every so often she has dogs. It's, and then she brought them back to her. Yeah, that was difficult. We are on time here. It's not already. People see them like.
Oh, it is. Wow, we are very lit up.
I'm paler than usual. That's all picture about that. You're in that sentence. Glowing. So when was the surgery? When was the surgery?
The back of my hand. I was losing control of my fingers.
Okay.
Because of the ligaments. So I had an open surgery in September. But this was not related to the surgery. So I was arthritis. And the ligaments were also being impeded by spines. So yeah, I had issues on my little finger that was starting to lose my third finger. But when they said spreading the middle finger would be on. So it was pretty involved. They showed me a picture of the back of my hand open.
And now you wish they hadn't shown you.
Sure.
That's a picture.
Was very involved. So they changed the dressing room.
Okay.
The surgery was Friday.
Oh, so that was very recent.
So, but to put the cast on, they wanted to manipulate the hand in a certain way in order to set it.
How painful was that?
I've had residual. Most of the pain subsided by Saturday evening. But after the manipulation of the cast, so I took a couple times mostly.
Yeah, yeah.
If I wince and I'm weak, I'm good. If I wince, fall out, yeah.
Are you
But-
right-handed? No.
No use whatsoever. For weeks, they wanted stable.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks rehab. So range of motion and slow process. But I was really losing use. You know. So
But fingers crossed. You are happy with the.
yeah, the x-rays were very positive on Monday. So this, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of choice. I could wait until all the ligaments started to atrophy.
No,
That didn't make sense.
yeah, exactly. You need both hands.
It's hard. When you
I figured out. Seems to be playing out.
no, but yeah, a superintendent colleague of mine was like, we should do lunch. And I said, the only thing right now, I can't even do here. It's that hard.
Yep, yep, and
Yeah.
it is now.
Trying sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
So. Little by little. Monday, the sutures come out, so. It's pretty extensive work.
Kelly's face. Kelly's face looks like my face. I'm like, don't tell me that. La, 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 la. Put you on me on the floor? Like I can't. Oh, so easy. It's terrible. Okay. Okay. Yours. 9:29. Let's call our board meeting to order. I am very excited to see you all in person. It's so much nicer than seeing you on a little spare. Was it on, off?
It's on.
Should be good, yeah. Thank you very much for making the drive in the cold this morning to meet us at this beautiful place. We will have our regular board meeting, and then there is a tour, right? Scheduled after, available for whoever has time is available. Please join us for the tour. It's always exciting to see schools in person. Good, then let's start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So first item would be the approval of today's agenda. You have all received it in an email and in today's package.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. May I have a second? Thank you.
Second. Field day.
Yeah. Any objections? If not, the agenda is approved. Then we would need, sorry, who has the screen?
Brian does.
Oh, okay. Right, okay, thank you. I was like, sorry. The next item is the approval of the last two meeting minutes of CTECS board meetings. If you remember, we postponed the approval of the October meeting minutes because they were reviewed by Attorney Kelly and we'll just make sure everything is accurate and all the information needed is on the meeting minutes. So I would like a motion to approve the October and the November meeting minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Any objections? Please say no. Aye. Okay. Then we have the meeting minutes approved unanimously. The next action item, we move on to items requiring actions.
Madam Chair, point of order, just as their public participation.
Oh, exactly. Sorry. Thank you. Do we have any public participation? Not today. Do we?
Chair.
Okay.
Hi. Good morning. I'm gonna say good evening. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ethan Gutterman. I'm the SEIU 1199 New England organizer for the CTECS school here. I represent all school nurses at the various CTECS schools. So I just want to introduce myself. If anyone has any questions, I'll have my business card. Feel free to talk to me after this meeting. But yeah, just wanted to introduce myself. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, then we have the committee schedule in the package. And I think what we need to review is the schedule itself and then the committees. You will see that there is a change of the committees we suggest. We had in the past the Outreach and Partnership Committee, the Policy Committee, and the Finance and Facilities Committee. And going forward to, utilize everybody's time as efficiently as possible and support CTECS with what is actually needed and how we can be most helpful. The proposal is that going forward, we have two committees. One would be the Business and Industry Committee, and the other one, the Career Pathways Committee. And you find in your package more information, detailed descriptions on what the goal of these two committees should be. And let's go through this real quick. So for the Business and Industry Committee, the focus of this committee would be to build relationships between CTECS and Connecticut businesses and industry, with the goal, of course, to create opportunities for CTECS students. So the three focus areas would be community outreach, community engagement, and advocacy. The other committee we suggest or propose is the Career and Pathways Committee. Focus of that committee would be expanding career exploration initiatives and collaboration with colleges and universities, and also a focus on work-based learning. I have great news to share with Career and Pathways Committee, a very important and helpful one. And Keith volunteered to be the chair of that committee. It's of course important that Keith has strong, engaged, and committed committee members to really help us with reaching these goals. And for the Business and Industry Committee, there is no chair yet. So what I would ask all board members to do, to really do some soul searching and look in your calendars and see whether you find the time to support either one of these committees, to be actively engaged and to help the chairs reaching their goals. You don't need necessarily to raise your hand right now, unless you are super excited and say, yes, I want to be involved. I know I want to be part of this committee. Let us know. But please take this information, read through it, look at your schedules and raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, which one?
The one you put me on.
Good.
That's fine, that works.
Okay, good, perfect, wonderful. Yeah, you see on page 2, suggestions. By no way is that like you have to, and then we just assign that to you. But based on your expertise and what you have contributed so far to the board, this was our suggestion of board members we would like to see in these committees, but we of course can speak for you. So, but thank you, Jeff, for raising your hand and say, yes, you will be part of that committee. So take a look at this and let us know whether you would be willing and you can find the time to help. Yeah.
I'm not sure how these microphones work, but
You press the green button and
All
then
right,
the
there we
red
go.
light goes on.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. I'm definitely happy where I'm at. I'm gonna look at the calendar just to make sure I can fully support. I'm
Perfect.
interested in whatever help is needed there. Actually more focused on the other one, the Career Pathways Committee. Is the intent for it to also, because I see it talks about college and university partnerships. So I see that word a lot. But what about trade, like trade partnerships are also going to be part of that equation also, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Because it is, you are absolutely
Yeah.
right. It could create great additional opportunities for CTECS
Yeah.
students.
Okay, all right. No,
That should be at the core.
I assumed that was the case.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, obviously it's something that from my part of the world, and I have a heavy involvement in a lot of different manufacturing spaces, that, so as I start going out there and doing the things that I think you're looking for us all to do, that I'm talking properly here.
Perfect.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Share on that if I can.
Yep.
I do agree with my good friend. Come on.
in the world of apprenticeship and work-based learning and a lot of things, and I've heard a really interesting term over the last couple of weeks where this new generation is calling themselves the tool belt generation. I think we're on the front page, we have Career Pathways Committee recommendation, where out of the normal traditional of college and career partnerships, identify post-secondary education and not calling it just higher education. Would go and allude to exactly what you're speaking and what we are trying to do as well for apprenticeships and work-based learning for that matter. So either include as a third bullet point, post-secondary education, or just inclusive of, and then it just isn't specific to trades, because even though they are post-secondary, there's a tremendous amount of trigonometry that needs to be done in trades, as we well know. It's not actually part of higher education. So if we could kind of go along that path, I think it also goes with not only all of what we're trying to do here as a goal, but just as a recommendation to constantly bring that home as post-secondary for all, not just higher education for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I would agree with both of those comments. I also see that these committees are very tightly related to each other because we want to build career pathways that are based on industry demand. So it would be great if there was an opportunity for some maybe quarterly meetings. I like how you scheduled them back to back. Maybe there's a quarterly meeting where the whole committees meet together to kind of discuss where those opportunities for overlap are, and building those relationships for students to enter career pathways and to have meaningful work-based learning experiences. You need the business and industry outreach. For my participation in this, I would really love to be part of both of them. And I would love the opportunity to potentially bring in some of my team members to help participate, especially we have a person that leads our industry, business and industry regional sector partnerships. That could be very helpful in building those partnerships through the RSPs.
That brings up actually a really good, go ahead. A really good point. We could, also look at the idea of bringing non-board members in these committee meetings. We have a good representation, for example, of manufacturing industry in these committee meetings. Others like healthcare are not as much represented or not at all. So bringing non-board members in these committee meetings to get a broader perspective from various industries might be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We have 14 regional sector partnerships across 6 industries. And so we're really building those regional sector partnerships as a place to engage employers and driving more employers to that shared table. And so you get a really big bang for your buck. We're participating with over 500 businesses currently. So instead of knocking on everybody's door individually, we can engage them strongly there. And Sean is part of one of those best performing regional sector partnerships.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm on a steering committee, not surprisingly at TEMA, but and I'm not saying it because there's a representative of the SEIU here, but obviously, like with Governor's Workforce Council work, and being chair with somebody from Yale New Haven, I'm starting to kind of get some glimpses or better glimpses into like that work. And I'm not trying to say it's purely those, but I do second, when you say that, Kelly, there's opportunity for us to get many of the other industries in there. That's great.
Absolutely. And I would just mention that we intentionally scheduled these as all remote so that we could have, more statewide representation, et cetera, at these meetings. So absolutely. And several of you were very hard to split across the 2 committees for these reasons. So your teams are welcome. Other suggestions of, business and industry leaders or other education leaders are welcome. And these will be public meetings too. So I'm happy to have other engagement. So thank you all very much. But again, I just want to reiterate what the chair said, that I think these are 2 committees where the members of the board can really help us hone in on the work we need to be doing. And so appreciate you allowing us to rework the committee structure and hopefully tap into your expertise in a really constructive way. So thanks, Jim, for jumping into.
Thank you. Now back to Kelly's suggestion for additional quarterly meetings where both committees meet should we update our schedule with these quarterly meetings?
Madam Chair, if I can, to amend Kelly's, as our advisory board,
Mhm.
advisory to the superintendent and executive director. I think it would be wise to do two things, quarterly meetings of both committees themselves, and also we're gonna move some things around, allow for 2 ex officios in each committee. Therefore, I could take care of some other additional people, non-voting ex officios, I think would be wise
Mhm.
as a recommendation.
Okay.
If you would, I think 2 is a good start. We might find that there are more than 2 we could add. So if you're amenable, we'd have at least 2. Is that okay? And
Fair enough.
no more than 20? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't want to make these unruly, but I definitely want to.
Subject to the discretion
Yes.
of the executive
Okay,
director.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, I think the, not the, more the merrier, but I do think we need some broad representation where we have lots of other trade areas, 30 in fact, and so I want to make sure we're catching some of those things as well. And then love the idea of, you can imagine that Paul DeVoy suggested that all RSPs be represented. I think that would possibly be a lot, so maybe we want to think about how to use your team as the conduit to them, but maybe there are some times when we could have cross.
Yeah, and actually some of the co-conveners are co-conveners of more than one RSP, so might be able to bring in certain people who can represent multiple
Great.
RSPs.
Okay. Good.
Maybe one word to the Finance and Facilities Committee. That is the one committee that will not take place going forward anymore. And the reason for that is that a finance update will be moved into the update section of the executive director report in board meetings. And there is no committee meeting anymore for finance and policy and facility. Okay, good. Then
You need an approval of
of the schedule, exactly.
and the committees.
Exactly. So can I have a motion to approve the new committee schedule and the schedule for the board meetings for the rest of the year? So moved. Thank you. Can I have a second, Sean? Perfect. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Any objections? Say no, nay. Thank you very much. Then we are moving on to the report of the executive director.
Great, thank you. Couple of things we want to do today, but let's do before we get to the updates, let's get the one item that needs approval out of the way. Ronki, if you would lead us in that conversation, that would be great.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. So glad. I just want to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Pritchard as our executive director. We're so happy to have you on board, and thank you all board members for joining us here at Wilcox Tech. So happy to see you guys in the new year. Right now, we're going to move into the authority of signature. So right now we have the Child Nutrition Program, and it's the formal agreement between us and the State Department of Education on the USDA Child Nutrition Program. And what it is the agreement to designate a representative to authorize and sign on behalf of our certified claims and reimbursement for that program. So by statute, we are required to have approval as Dr. Pritchard is our executive director to sign. And then we need minutes to submit that to the State Department of Education so that we can move forward in conducting our business for our school nutrition program. So at this time, I'd like to ask the board to approve Dr. Pritchard as our authorized signature for the district.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. All right, thank you.
Just in case.
Oh.
Just in case somebody to vote against.
Just in case. And everybody in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Thank you. Any objections, please say nay. Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you.
I won't let all the power go to my head. So I have a number of things I would love to update you on this morning. So it has been a very busy 2 months to get started. It has been great getting to know everybody and particularly to get a chance to get out this month more so to schools and to tromp around and see students and see staff and to talk to administrators. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So I thought I would just give you some updates on what I have been doing. So probably some of my very first meetings obviously were with the governor's office and with the Office of Policy and Management to make sure that we are starting to get our administrative house in order. Happy to talk more about those things, but just know that I have bi-weekly meetings with OPM, just talking about budget matters, and otherwise if they need me, and then also have been in regular contact with Office of the Governor. I'm now part of their commissioners meetings, which kind of happen monthly, depending on availability. But anyway, in the loop, occasionally get skipped, and they're trying to remember to put me on all the right lists. So doing that. Spent most of December at central office trying to make sure I understood what our administrative and academic strengths and challenges were. Had an opportunity to talk to a bunch of staff, certainly not long enough or enough people, but trying to circle back on those kind of a second and third time now, but certainly identified rather quickly some of the areas that need work. Have had the opportunity to meet now twice with the principals who meet monthly, and looking forward to more of those conversations. I've had an opportunity to meet with AFSFA and also with SVFT to hear their concerns and to try to work to improve communication. I think that's a key area of focus for me in the year ahead. And then, as I said, I've started school visits, and I am focused in my school visits on kind of the administrative concerns that that the schools and the principals have in particular. And I'll speak in a second about work that Freeman's doing, but he's also doing visits. We split, 18, 19 visits is a lot of visits in a short period of time. So we split the list, and then we're going to flip so that hopefully by middle of March, I would say at this point, we've gotten to Freeman and I have both gotten to every school, but every school is being seen hopefully by early February. So we're trying to get out as quickly as we can to those visits. The legislative session, I wanted to just say a few things about that. So we had opening day, got to attend and be part of those festivities. Have already started to have meetings with legislative leaders, particularly the chairs of the Appropriations Committee, the Education Committee, have upcoming meetings with the Labor and Commerce Committee chairs, and then also with leadership. So those are all, I will say, across the board, there is a tremendous amount of support for CTECS in all of my conversations. Even where there are concerns, they are overshadowed by the enthusiasm for the system. And so I really think we have an opportunity here to maximize legislative support and, be honest and transparent about some of the concerns that they have. And we will have an opportunity for that. The budget will come out in very early February. We expect the governor will be on time with that. And so if that happens on February 5th, we will start to have hearings probably the 2 weeks after with the Appropriations Committee, and then subcommittee meetings will follow. So we'll keep you posted on that. And then also just want to mention on January 30th, I just found out will be my executive nominations hearing. Governor did appoint me as interim. I need to go through the legislative process, but I will start that on the 30th. I will testify. I will tell them that I am excited to have this opportunity to stay through the governor's term, which is all that is, kind of available. As Kelly knows, we're all coterminous with the governor, but we'll be excited to talk about that on the 30th. I think that Sean may be up the same day to do his board membership, so we'll be there for that as well. So that's exciting, and I'm excited to start that public journey with the legislature. Wanted to talk about, let me skip to the budget for a second. I know that you all had conversations about the budget at your November board meeting and raised a number of concerns. Do want you to know that I'm, working really closely with OPM. They are digging in and want to understand what our challenges are, but again, very supportive of, getting us through this year of the budget. We will be making a request in May, likely for deficiency funding, because there's no two ways around that. But again, I think that the understanding is, and I think it's fair, and I say it repeatedly, that this is a system that still doesn't yet know what its budget should be. We don't have enough experience and understanding what the real costs associated with the system are. And so we're going to have some of this give and take where we are budgeted, but we have deficiencies. We need to try to live within our means, but also will, encounter some difficulties in doing that. And OPM is very supportive of this journey, and they're doing it with us. And I'll say a little bit more about that. But we do expect that we will have a deficiency hearing in May, and we'll move forward from that. And again, I just want to mention that you all may have talked about this in November. I did watch the meeting, but I can't remember the exact details. But in particular, part of the challenge we have is that the governor and OPM did not open the budget the second year of the biennial budget. And so we knew we had problems last year, but they went unaddressed because they didn't open the budget. So they know these things are here for that reason. In addition to increased cost for, things like utilities, which are hitting every agency, certainly. And then the special education funding, which you all talked about, I'm sure. Which we are still trying to get an understanding of, but think we are starting to understand it better. And so OPM is, again, supporting us through that process. So just want you to be reassured that we are looking at it all the time. There is, in full transparency, we are definitely balancing, paying one bill against the other, just like some poor households have to do. We're in that space. OPM is supporting us by advancing allocations that we would normally have through the remainder of the year so that we can pay bills now. But, we will still end up with a deficiency at the end, but we're talking about how to build that into our future cost rather than always running that kind of deficit. So again, that's, kind of where we are with the budget. I'll do a couple more things and then I can stop and take any questions. One of the things that we are focused on is some organizational assessments, however, kind of high level. Where are we with a host of different things? So I want to mention that one of the first things we've had out of the gate, we had some support from the Office of Labor Relations to look at our labor relations processes. And we have we have a consultant diagnosing those issues now. We've had challenges around timeliness, challenges just around process and making sure everybody understands the process, et cetera. And so we're doing some work in that area, have gotten and we'll be getting some feedback from our labor union colleagues as well about what they see as the challenges. And so bless you. So that is happening. And there will be recommendations coming from that about process improvements. I'm confident. One of the ways in which OPM is helping is that they have made a consulting firm available to us on contract to look at our administrative structure. So there was some talk when I first arrived about a financial review. I'm not sure if this is the proxy for that, but what I can tell you is what we are doing. We are in the final stages of negotiating a scope of work with a consulting firm who will come in and do a very quick diagnostic of our administrative areas. So they will look at HR, they will look at finance, they will look at procurement, communications, governance, a number of areas where we believe we have some shortcomings, and they will hit the ground and do some assessment and then give us some recommendations on things to do going forward. This will be particularly important for us to share as we go into the legislative session. I think, again, though everybody is supportive, I think they want to make sure we don't have our head in the sand. And so one of the ways we do that is by looking under the hood, and that's what this firm will be helping us to do. So they're going to look at our structure, our operational alignment with state and federal regs. I think one of our challenges has been really making sure that we're living up to our state agency responsibilities and processes and procedures. And so that's a big piece of what they will do. They will also identify gaps and inefficiencies in our structures and processes. Again, I can tell you, I think there's a lot of work, improvement that we can do in those areas. So this will get it documented and allow us to jump forward. It'll be a big help to me. It would take me months to do this kind of assessment. So really appreciate them making that available to us. As I mentioned, Freeman is doing visits and he's going to speak to it in his report when I've asked him to share a little bit, but he's focusing on the academic and school issues while I do go out and ask about finance, facilities, and workforce issues that the schools may be encountering. Two more quick things in this category. We are filling as quickly as we can some really key vacancies. So as you all may be aware, we have not had a CFO for some time. Really hopeful that we'll have a CFO in the month of February. We have not had a legal director for some time. Really hopeful that we'll have a legal director into February, beginning of March. That is still an open posting at the moment. So hoping that draws some good candidates. I had several people reach out, very interested in the work. So hopefully that means we've got some folks interested in that. And then we have just, with GAS, just hired a new human resources business partner. There's been a lot of churn in that role, which has created some instability as well. And so really hopeful that we have somebody who's gonna come in and stick, and DAS has offered a lot of support around that new person to make sure that goes well. So that's all really exciting. And then we have the superintendent search, which the chair is going to talk about later, but a lot of key leadership pieces coming hopefully in the next month or so. Excited about that. And then lastly, the other assessment that I wanted to mention is that we are doing a very deep dive on the special education funding questions, service questions, et cetera. We're doing that because State Department of Ed is conducting an investigation and we are answering their very detailed questions and expect to be doing that for some time. Every answer necessitates another set of questions probably, but we've had very good conversations with State Department of Ed and with our team. And I want to thank Javette and her team for getting us information, and Freeman has been leading this. But we know we're going to have legislative hearings where questions are asked as well. And we want to be prepared. The legislature, in fact, actually has started a special ed committee because they're concerned about this, not just in our system, but across the school systems. So I think this is a really important conversation for all of us to be having. We can certainly do better. And so I think that is the message. We need to make sure that we have the resources we need to serve these students well. And so we need to tell our story. We certainly need to reframe our narrative a bit. We serve lots of students in special ed, and we should, and we need to just make sure that we're doing the best job possible. So we are working on that as well. And it is definitely a group effort. And then lastly, I just want to speak to workforce development. So again, I think one of the things that I did a couple of weeks ago with Nikki's support was talk to the trade unit leaders about what they're already doing on workforce. Again, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of really strong local partnerships. But what I have done is offered any additional help that I can, kind of like Kelly, have a lot of connections in business and industry, in higher education, in the workforce system. So have offered that up wherever it can be helpful. One of the kind of low hanging fruit that we've done, and Carrie is leading this effort with us, the 5 workforce boards have all offered to work on job fairs for our students in the spring, rather than us doing our own. Or in addition, we have some things that are probably still going to happen, but the workforce boards do this on a regular basis and really wanted to showcase our students as part of the available workforce for employers. So those conversations are starting, and Carrie's leading that up with our schools. Had a very exciting meeting last week with the Connecticut Science Center, which people might not have thought about partnering with, but they market to lots of middle school parents and kids and offered to help advertise our trades. So again, Carrie is jumping into that conversation with their communications team. They also have opportunities for work-based learning. And again, they're not a traditional industry that you would think of sending students to, but they are building exhibits and other really great stuff that they were interested in partnering with us. So the Connecticut Science Center is underway and an exciting opportunity. We've also had groups like Stanley Black and Decker and other state agencies reach out and say, let us know how we can help. We'd really like to partner. So that work will all be happening as well. And then we need to pick up on something that I understand has been happening in the past, which is a partnership with Department of Labor and our counselors to talk about how to get students ready for interviews and other things. So we're gonna pick that one up as well. So let me stop talking and see if there are questions. Like, yeah, Jim.
I don't have a question as much as a thought and a comment about special education.
Yes.
I do appreciate the legislature discussing this. I mean, but they're a huge part of the problem. I mean, the legislature, at first there's a special education excess cost grant that they don't even fund at 100%. So town like Derby gets 72% of that. And then they just recently lowered the 72% to the 64%. And I know it's difficult to have these discussions with the legislature, and we are in our local, our local education departments, but the legislature, they are a significant part of the problem. And I would be remiss if I didn't share my experience and say that. So,
Thank you. I'm sure that I would hope that they're part, the way in which the state can help is part of the analysis, not just, but yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, please.
I am a graduate of Connecticut Tech. I've taught in this system in the day and in the evening. And I just, you've been a good friend for a very long time. Our title is the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System. And I'm speaking on behalf of the employers of apprentices. This is the most robust and most affordable avenue of education for adults in this entire state. And I think sometimes that's lost in conversation. Of course, we have a hyper focus on the overwhelming majority of our students being grades 9 through 12. Systemically, we have had this for decades here. This is the only place, and I was a national president of apprenticeship directors. This is the only state that has an entire system like this for adults. The opportunity for people that go to comprehensive high schools that didn't make it into the school system for one reason or another, that's really their most affordable opportunity. They do a wonderful job of what they're doing, but on behalf of again, there's no such thing as an apprenticeship without employers. I'm speaking on behalf of the employers to continue the conversations, especially with OPM, in my opinion, and the General Assembly, to state that this is also not just for 9 through 12. This is one of the most comprehensive around and needs to be going forward and expanded if need be. But let's just keep where it is now. And just a reminder, this is a full career system and not just the high school. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, Todd. And I think I have had some initial conversations as well, and again, this is just a piece of that adult population, but about how our system could be part of the broader conversation that's going on at the state around opportunity youth or disconnected youth or 18 to 24-year-olds at least. So I think there are ways in which we could be utilizing our adult program more effectively, but I 100% agree with you that we need to also be focusing, not at the detriment of, but at expansion. I would agree. 3,000 is a drop in the bucket by comparison to what we probably could be doing. So thank you for that.
I just want to say thank you for all of the work that you've done in the first few months of your tenure. It's very impressive, and I wouldn't have expected anything less. A little bit along the lines of Todd's conversation is this is a gem, and this is where we really have an opportunity to expand experiential learning, and this is where it happens in the CTECS system. We think about how we have such a waiting list for the CTECS schools. And there was conversations early on in the release of the Governor's Workforce Council of how could we provide opportunities to our comprehensive high school students. We have Wilcox High School right down the street. How can we utilize some of the facilities in the labs after school to make those things available to some of our comprehensive high school students that may be interested? We also know that, our students at our at risk for disengagement, those who have meaningful educational experiences, especially in career trajectories, are coming to school. And this is a really good way to address disconnected youth and bringing them back into a system by giving them meaningful career pathways. So how we can think about tightening that connection and broadening those opportunities for students who may not have had the opportunity to come to CTECS, I think would be another thing that we should be thinking about. Fully utilizing these facilities year round, 7 days a week would be great.
Kelly, you reminded me of a conversation that I had last week, and I was delicate but firm, I would say, and that one of the education chairs suggested that we needed to have the trades in all 169 school districts again. And I suggested that we did not need to do that. What we needed to do was make sure we had enough opportunities within the CTECS system. And then those kinds of partnerships could also be possible. But I get the desire to make sure that every kid and but I was like, they all do have access to us, and we just need to expand so that we can serve more. But I hear you on making sure that we're making full use of our buildings, certainly, and then also those connections where we can. So that's great. Thank you. Made that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that update. And I really appreciate both of your effort to visit each and every school before mid of February. I really commend you for this. And I think it is important that you show your face. Thank you for making all these miles and visits. I'm also happy to hear that, you work with OPM now successfully on the budget deficiencies. Just for me to better understand the situation, are students, teachers, other stakeholders affected by these budget deficiencies? And if so, how?
Absolutely. I think that we have, thankfully, in the last year, there was a lot of hiring of teachers. And so I think our retention has been very good into this school year. So there are places where we do not have all the instructors we need, and we're pinpointing those and trying to figure out how to address those. But certainly where we have a classroom vacancy, kids are affected, and we need to work on those things. We had a number of cash flow challenges which impacted classrooms specifically, which is that there was some lag in available funds to pay for software licenses. We were able to get classroom computers in for the most part, from what I understand, but we had a number of software things that didn't happen. And so schools really were behind. We finally caught up, but that was a long lag, certainly. And again, this is that, which bill are you paying kind of situation. But I think we have caught up, I believe, and all of the money that was going to schools has now gotten to them. And so that now we're kind of on to bigger bills that we have not yet paid. So there's no doubt that there is an impact on classrooms if we are missing instructors, if they don't have the software. We're excited because we now have bond funding to make sure that we have the technology that we need in the classroom. So that, there are definitely impacts and things that we need to work on. I'm hopeful. One of the things we've been stressing with OPM is that we can't really, phase our spending out over the course of a full year. Our funding is very focused on, July to August, July to September, to make sure that our classrooms are ready, to make sure that we have all the things we need. So we're starting to talk a little bit more about how do we address that beginning of the year need for us. So, but I would not want anybody to walk away thinking that this has all been easy, that the schools have not been pained by the lack of resources. But again, hoping that we can improve upon that, as we go forward. But the outstanding bills that truthfully are not getting paid right now are big things like utilities and playing those games where you pay 1 month and the next one's coming, and we're doing those kinds of things. But OPM is helping us by advancing some more resources so that we can get caught up on some of those bills. But I believe the schools have finally all gotten their allocations. But again, those are things that we want to improve in the future, both from a cash flow, but also just a communication. I think one of the challenges is that we just haven't shared enough of those pain points so that people understand that it's not that we're, just not paying your bill because you don't want to pay your bill. But more so that there's a balancing act happening. Certainly, but there have not been layoffs, there have not been cuts and those kinds of things to balance the budget. So we've gotten, we've been okay on that front as well, but still work to do for sure. Sorry, yeah, Jim.
And again, I only asked this out of the sense of, preventing future issues. Are the deficiencies we're having based up solely upon unanticipated costs incurred throughout the year? Or was it not asking for enough at the at the previous budget cycle? And by the way, it's not critical because I realize what you said. We're still learning our budget.
No, thank you. No, that they are unanticipated costs. Absolutely. And the fact that the budget was not opened. So there was no room for, we made the ask as I'm sure many other state agencies did too. And the answer was, we're not opening the budget. So you get exactly what you had last time. But we did ask. So for instance, for the upcoming biennial budget, we made those pain points known, and sent those. Now how that gets played out in the governor's budget is another question. They certainly don't have a lot of room under their spending cap and other concerns. So I'm sure we'll not get everything we ask for either. So it really is unanticipated cost, but now they're not unanticipated. Now we know these are the costs that we need to figure out how to budget for. And so I think what we now need to do is a more thorough budgeting process with the individual schools and then with the schools as a whole and then with the central office. So we need to get into a budgeting mode that makes it clear that we understand what those ongoing costs are.
And I'm sure this is done. I just want to ask, because again, just coming from a local school system as well. So we ask our town for money, they give us X amount, and then we go back in and we eliminate a painful exercise. And Sir Freeman will, painful exercise of going in and then reducing the budget. And is that a process, do you know, that we did last year?
I do not know that process has been in place. That is the process we need to use, obviously, going forward. The statute that in the transition outlines the fact that a budgeting process is supposed to happen in a particular way, which is that Freeman works or the superintendent works with the individual schools on their budget needs, rolls those up across all of them, hands them off to me to add the central office spending to it. And then that's what goes in. And then you're right, there should be then a return loop that says you got 10% less than you wanted. So how are you going to manage that both across the central office and across the schools? I do not believe that process has happened in the 2-year transition, and that's the process we would be looking at going forward. So we were just mentioning as soon as yesterday in a finance meeting that as soon as we know what the governor's budget is, which hopefully is the floor, we would start a budgeting process based on those numbers and see where that leaves us and where the gaps are as part of our ongoing work. So yes, yes. And again, as a state agency, we have made our needs known, and so we'll see how that rolls back to us. But of course, thank you for the question. Sorry, I've talked longer than I anticipated, and I did want to give Freeman a few minutes to talk about his work, and then so if there's nothing else, Madam Chair, I could ask Freeman to weigh in a bit about some of what he's been doing as well.
I was going to say I have nothing to report, but
Nice try.
thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to preface my remarks by pointing out two things. First of all, as I'm sure the advisory board knows, we are in a bifurcated structure. So to that end, I just want to speak on my 30 days or so. I started on December 5th. I can tell you it's been a distinct pleasure and honor to work with Alice from her perspective as executive director, and also to work with Ronki, given her steep history in the tech schools. Her information on historical aspects has been immeasurable. Okay. Having said that, I can tell you, I try not to deep dive. I don't need ancient history. From my perspective, I need more recent history in order to figure out what we're going to do moving forward. But I do have to say this, that I think the communication among the three of us has been fantastic. I try to keep Alice and Ronki informed of all the areas in my domain that I'm working on. And likewise, Alice and Ronki have shared that. And I think for this structure to work, it has to be the executive director and the future superintendent of schools working lockstep together, sharing philosophy, sharing belief, and sharing information, even across domains, critically important given the structure of the organization. I also want to preface my remark by saying in my discussions with the governor's chief of staff office, I did extensive research for several weeks. And I can tell you honestly, after extensive research on the CTECS system, everything online, et cetera, you do not know what you don't know until you know it. And that is the reality of our CTECS system. There's good, there's bad, and there's ugly within that structure. Up into the new year, my focus has primarily been on our central office school-based supports, how they function, how they interact, how they serve the schools. I can tell you that there are strengths. There's a curriculum in place. Within departments, I found that communication, intra-communication is strong. Our weaknesses are interdepartmental communication across departments, okay, which is so critically important. I'm not going to say this is related to the independence nature from the SDE. This may have well been prevalent before, but a district cannot succeed or operate successfully independently without understanding that each department, whether it's central office or school-based, is interdependent on each other. And that's critical. And that's one of the areas we're lacking. Okay, we're starting to make movements in that area. For example, in curriculum, special ed is starting to modify. Additionally, special ed is looking at universal strategies that benefit all learners, particularly our high need populations, but also accommodations. We cannot operate as a district if at our school level, the mindset of some of our people are, well, I'm not a special educator. Okay. So I can't teach special ed kids. That's deficit mindset. Now it's a two-way street. One is dealing with that, but the other aspect of that is making sure we're putting the supports in place so people have the tools at their disposal to effectively utilize accommodations, to effectively implement any modifications to the curriculum thereof. Additionally, I've spent a lot of time looking at the school sites. We are operating as 17 autonomously independent schools, a recipe for failure. That does not mean that a handful of our schools could not succeed. What it does mean is systemically, we are not going to have success throughout this district operating in an independent, autonomous fashion. I'm a systems kind of thinker. I think it's been evident in all the work that I've done, pre-retirement, okay, as well as post-retirement. But we are trying to put systems in place. To that end, my school visits will incorporate a needs assessment. It's a two-pronged needs assessment. One is a self-evaluation, self-introspection, introspection, reflection of the school itself, expecting principals to talk about what they perceive to be, and their leadership teams perceived to be their strengths, perceived to be their weaknesses, how they're using, and this is critical, how they're using their current staffing as well as financial resources to basically coalesce their effort to make improvements in the areas they've identified as focus areas. It's not more money first. It's a strategic approach to how we are going to utilize what currently exists in a fashion that we're essentially organizing our effort focused on the results we want to get in the areas we need to improve. The second piece of the needs assessment is central office. Central office only exists, you know, from my work in Shelton, only exists, okay, in the fact that schools see central office as assistance, support, and facilitative efforts to help them meet the needs, particularly where they have gaps. Okay, that's the role. If central office cannot fill those needs, there's no reason for central office to exist, quite frankly. We need our central office. Okay, we just need them to operate in a different fashion. So the second aspect of that needs assessment is to get input for principals, from principals and their leadership teams. What departments are supporting us? How can they support us better? What additional kinds of assistance or human resources do we need? I'm going to speak to human resources always before I speak to financial. Okay, because at the end of the day, we cannot carry our deficits and say we need more money if we can't quantify exactly where we need our money to be. And I think that part of our structure, the independent nature of central office, although I will say I see departments moving towards a much more interdependent fashion, which is needed. Okay, all that has to exist to support the common effort. Okay. Also to that end, in order to create systems, at the last principals meeting, principals were given a charge on the indicators that they are going to be held accountable for in all 17 schools. So whether some of those indicators they're doing well on, or some of those indicators they're not doing well on, the focus is universal for every single school. That includes, we have a new evaluation instrument. So that includes our cohort 1 and our cohort 2 evaluations. Cohort 1 in our model being non-tenured, cohort 2 in being tenured, and focus in the PDEC plan in an effort to deliver the efficacy and the fidelity to the model as it's being implemented. So schools are going to be held accountable on that, not just the principals, the entire leadership team, because the work of making sure the curriculum that we have in place at central office exists in the schools only can exist in that our leadership teams are in classrooms, monitoring instruction, seeing the curriculum being implemented firsthand, seeing modifications being implemented, seeing accommodations being utilized in the classroom for our high needs populations. Also, to that end, failure rates. Failure rates are a problem in the district right now. And so one of the things we have to look at is how to reduce our failure rates. That's a long-term and a short-term approach. Okay. Short-term, we have to look at our grading practices. Okay. And more importantly, we have to look at how we're meeting the needs of our high need populations, particularly our ELL learners and our students with disabilities. We've already had enough of the SDE investigation on admittance of special ed students. We do not need the SDE to come back looking at our performance with our high needs populations. That's an absolute no-no. And we have to basically address that head on, okay, fully, and embrace it, okay, that it's a commitment for what we have to do. Additionally, chronic absenteeism, schools are expected to monitor that as well. Also, where we lack sound instruction, we are implementing um, a very well-known research-based high school model. And that is essentially the gradual release of student responsibility lesson model. Gradual release model has been around a long time. Some of you who have an education background may know it as I do, we do, you do. The you do is critically important because that is putting the responsibility to exhibit, okay, mastery of the skills being taught by our students. Teachers cannot be mastering student skills. Those skills can only be mastered by the students themselves with whatever supports we need to provide as well. Additionally, we're looking at our alternate education programming. Thanks to Kelly, as well as our supervisor of counseling, we have a model that we'll be putting in place in the next week. And we also need to look at our current process for tutoring. As with many things endemic inside the district, we do not have protocols and procedures that are universal through all our schools. We tend to operate wherever we can unilaterally, arbitrarily, and in fact, capriciously, if you will. If we're not having success with the student, we're going to send the student for tutoring without any process or procedure attached. There should be a process. If it's a regular ed student, should be a student assistance team or a student study team that makes the recommendation for tutoring in a cycle, whether that's a 5-week, an 8-week, or a 10-week cycle. That also needs to accompany a universal assessment, whether it's for regular ed or special ed students, that measures kids before they go in, measures them after a 5-week cycle, after an 8-week cycle, and after a 10-week cycle in order to ascertain what level of progress and the efficacy of the tutoring model that is in place. Additionally, in special ed, no special ed students should be receiving tutoring outside of alternative education programming without a PPT process. Okay, so the PPT should be held, and again, it should follow a similar pattern for tutoring, whether that be a 5-week cycle, an 8-week cycle, or a 10-week cycle. Doesn't mean that students would only get one cycle if they require more, but what it does mean, we are going to be monitoring, measuring as we go along to determine the efficacy of the tutoring. Because if there isn't efficacy in tutoring, what is the point of tutoring? Okay. I know that sounds logical. I hope it does. But that's a fact. Again, with a gradual release of student responsibility, I think we can help some of our teachers who struggle with instructional techniques to improve. It's a tried and true model. It's relatively rudimentary. I don't want to take teachers that are high performing, that use cooperative groups, okay, use project-based learning and things like that, and normalize them to a gradual release model. Okay, I want there to be that kind of autonomy, but that kind of autonomy can only exist where teachers are effective in implementing the model. And where it's not effective, that's where we have to do our work. Additionally, as I think Alice alluded to, we'll be holding scheduling meetings at the end of the month. Gone are the days where we're going to schedule, whether it's an elective or a core course, for a handful of students. Okay, We have to have classes that range anywhere from 10 to 16 students in our classrooms, both in the academic area as well as the trade areas. And we'll be looking at that very closely going forward. I hope to report on that more in the next advisory meeting. Additionally, the special ed investigation, as Alice aforementioned, is completed. We'll find out what else the state wants to know. Because if you've been through things with the state, we can't expect that they're going away after this. Okay. There'll be some other questions. We should welcome that. We really should. We've also had from the RESCO schools, we've also had positive input in supporting us in conducting our lottery for the first time. Lastly, let me also say, I have taken over 6 schools under my direct supervision, the 3 RESCO schools and 3 other schools as well. We've reduced Nikki's load because of her tremendous load in the area of curriculum. So she is down to our 3 specialty schools, Bristol Tech, and our 2 aviation schools, as well as 3 other schools. Rich has picked up some of his former schools and a couple of others. He's up to 8. And I'll close by also saying we've kind of restructured a little bit in central office, not vastly, but I've arranged for certain departments to be direct reports to me as superintendent. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll close my remarks for this morning. Thank you.
Can I ask one question? The evaluation process that you speak about, is that the similar or the same that the Department of Education and CEA work that was rolled out public school teachers? Okay, and then, which is a very robust.
The plan was submitted prior to me being on.
Okay.
Most schools, I think, have to submit their plan by August 15th.
Thank you. My second question, you talked about the 17 autonomous school districts, so to speak. From a PDEC committee perspective, does each school have their own PDEC committee, or is it or does each school send representatives to a singular PDEC committee?
Well, the PDEC committee, and I'm going to use my previous experience because I previously served for about 8 weeks in Winchester. So I had to implement the model there. It's a prescribed model. Okay. And I believe CTEC, and I defer to Nicole, basically adopted the state PDEC model.
Sure, thank you. So, hi, I'm sorry. Sure. I hear you, sorry.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, and let's try to wrap our presentation just because we're running a little behind and we want to get to the shops before they all go to lunch. Because it's almost, 10:30 and they go to lunch.
That early?
Go ahead, Nicole. They do. And Freeman, your mic is not on if you say anything else. Yeah, please go ahead, Nicole.
Pardon me. Hi, I'm Nicole Walsh. I'm the Director of Accountability here and also the chairperson of our PDEC committee. So we do have a district level PDEC committee that has representation from SVFT, from AFSA, from special education, and trade and academic representation at the district level. We did mostly adopt the state model using Marzano's 10 design areas as our single point competency.
Yep.
For teachers to choose from. And then each school does have its own committee for professional learning and development within the school.
Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just really quickly, if I may, morning, Mr. Burr. A quick question, two-part, chronic absenteeism and tutoring. Kind of coalesce with each other a little bit from what we've been seeing from where my normal job is. Has this district thought about seeing there's the chronic absenteeism and the need for tutoring in the trade part or the academic part? And also, as been my experience in most comprehensive high schools, career technical education doesn't really have an occupational correlation. Would that tutoring be like bringing mathematics skills in conjunction with the possibility of need for tutoring in the shop setting? Thank you.
I think when we look at tutoring or any alternatives at support, it primarily focuses on the academic areas, as we know. But I believe, given the amount of information that we have on our own website, on YouTube, as well as I believe what is a vast area out there, we should be able to expose students to videos within the trade areas while they're receiving that. I'll be perfectly honest. It's not an area I've scratched the surface on. It's in the back of my mind because I have looked at like all the videos that are online. CTEC videos are pretty impressive when you look at the trade pieces. So I just think what we have to do is kind of be more flexible in our mindset on how we open the doors for that. I think instructors would say invariably, okay, for the kids to get it, the right information, they got to get it from us. Okay. When I used to meet with high school teachers, I used to tell high school teachers, you know, in this day and age, there's no such thing as controlling content. Because if a kid has an interest in chemistry, science, whatever, technology, they're going to go online and they're going to get information that their classroom teacher cannot deliver. And with all due respect, because I consider myself a teacher still, okay, we could never answer all the questions that kids have or they can find through information online. So I think on our part, what we have to do is we have to break the paradigm. We have to say, okay, we're going to open our minds. Similarly, when I was in Shelton, not to do ancient history, I talked about internships. One of the obstacles I met was individuals in the high school guidance felt that students should not have an opportunity for a paid internship while they're attending high school. What century are we in? Okay. I mean, an internship to me is an internship. And if a student could get paid a stipend for an internship, okay, and learn, particularly if it's, you know, if it's their project, their annual project, why not let them explore that with a stipend? Heaven knows, I come from a generation where going to college, you could actually afford it. And I remember my dad reminding me as a letter carrier not to screw around with his money. Okay. And school was cheap then. Okay. In this day and age, okay, I'd like to see as many of our kids as possible to pursue post-secondary efforts, whether it's at the community technical system and beyond, if they so choose. But the opportunity for them to get associate's degrees, other credentials, et cetera. I just think we have to open our mindset. And I think too frequently, we've become products of the very high school systems that we graduated from and have a hard time breaking away from that. And I'll even speak from my own perspective as an old guy. Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you for the time and we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for this update, Freeman and Alice. I think it's very apparent that there is a lot of change going on in CTECS. A lot of exciting things are happening. And the board needs to help and need to support. I really like the expectations of committee members you summarized on that document. Please leverage your connections outside of the board to help students to promote CTECS and be an active participant. Please show up for the in-person meetings and dial in for the virtual meetings. Should you be not able to attend, let Ronke know beforehand so we always know, do we have a quorum, yes or no, for the meetings. I want to give you just a very brief update on the superintendent. hiring process. So we are currently finishing up the review of about 40 applicants, which we have received. There is a wide range of qualifications in these candidates, but we are wrapping up the first round of review. The idea then is that the selected candidates are interviewed by 2 different panels, one industry panel and one education panel. Industry panel, for example, Sean would be wonderful to have on the industry panel. Kelly, you would be great on the industry panel. Todd, I always don't know whether it would be more education or industry. You
Welcome to
fit in both
Toddland, yeah.
areas. Exactly. Jim,
Wherever you need
industry
me, Madam
panel.
Chair.
Jim too, right?
Exactly. Education panel, Ronki, Freeman, Todd, Lance, Keith, you would be awesome in the education panel. After we have the candidates, interviewed in these 2 panels, we will submit a final candidate or candidates to Alice. Our goal is to have this done by March 1st and have the superintendent on board by April 1st. So fingers crossed we can get this done, but I think we have good candidates applying and I'm positive that we make that happen. Thank you. With that, I think we can. Yeah, oh, sorry.
We usually don't need a microphone.
But it's good for the recording.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Freeman and Alice for outstanding reports. It really does fill you with hope and inspiration. We are at a critical juncture here. It is time to take our very good CTECS system and make it truly outstanding. And I think that we're so fortunate. I would even, for myself, I would say blessed to have Freeman and Alice here to help lead us into this new time. I'm very, very grateful to Governor Lamont for his thoughtful appointments. It's time, everyone. And I think with the committee restructuring, I think with the school visits, I think with the efforts to align our budget, it's a tremendous opportunity, and we're also lucky to be here at this time. And so thank you very, very much. Alice, we talked before, I was thrilled when you were appointed, but that you're going to now go to the confirmation hearing to become not the interim, but the executive director. Thrilling to me. Very, very grateful that you're willing to step up and do this. Look forward to working with you. And although I'm anxious to get a new superintendent, I really don't want Freeman to leave. But I understand at some point you have to. That's fine, but I would like to check that out. Anyway. Absolutely. So thank you both very much for stepping up, answering the call. And I again, filled with hope. I think this is a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Seconds, thank you. Anybody opposed, raise, if you are okay to adjourn the meeting. Any objections? Good, thank you. Then we can go on the tour.
Yes, can we turn it over to Wendy for a bit of a quick overview of the school and then what we're gonna do next, but we definitely want to get our feet moving
Yes.
out into the train, so.
Absolutely, thank you. So, welcome everybody to Wilhat. I'm here today. I hope you had the opportunity to try some of our culinary delights over there. My name is Wendy White, I'm the principal here. I'm gonna give you the short version because, I had a little long version, but I know you guys. So just a little bit about Wilcox. Currently, we have about 750 students here, about 95 faculty and staff that work here. We obviously have our academic program, but we also have 13 technologies here, which is a little more robust than some of the other schools. We draw from 6 towns, primarily, Berlin, Cheshire, Meriden, Southington, Wallingford, and North Haven. Currently, we have 52 students out on work-based learning. And they encompass all 13 trades. All 13 trades have kids out. Our largest numbers for workplace are in manufacturing, electrical, and culinary arts right now. We have a large number of partnerships. I'll just mention some of them. Some very local ones from Meriden are Zoll's Auto Body, Roman Oils, Haverly Electric, Meriden Motors, Southwick and Meister, and American Soul Kitchen are some of the people we are partnering with for our work-based learning. And other ones that are in the local area that, if you're not familiar with the area, you might have heard of, are AquaTurf, Apple Rehab, and Executive Auto. So those are all some of our partners. We do have a strong extracurricular activities here. We have about 40% of our kids participated in just in our fall athletics alone. And more kids play different seasons. So we have a strong NHS, strong Skills USA VICA, something for everybody. About 25 additional students here that just this year earned the seal of biliteracy, which is kind of a big deal to me. And we do have quite a bit of community involvement here. So right now we run 2 after-school programs. One is Make the Grade, which is really a Wilcox program that offers, you know, some remediation, but also some enrichment for our students. But then we also have a career academy where Meriden students come from Meriden High School here to learn our trades. So we already are doing some of that for the local community. Some of the other partnerships we have in town are with Beat the Streets, who is located out of the Y, but they did a huge boxing program, which was a great thing for them, but also got a lot of people in our building. We've done train shows this year. South Meriden came over with their auto show. We're even looking at offering the building for a local karate school, which is a pretty big one to have tournament here. So we do have the people coming in to take advantage of our building. Right now, actually, I think Thursday, some of our kids are going over to the Meriden Historical Society. The linear trail runs behind our school, so they are actually researching the trail kiosks for the Meriden Historical Society. So that's another partnership we have. And a couple new things we have coming right now. Carpentry is building our new e-house. So if you drive around the school in the back, you see that that's what they're working on right now. And probably the biggest, most exciting thing we have coming is in the fall, we break ground on our new athletic field. So we are very excited about that. So getting the funding and the approvals to get that through has been years in the making, and a lot of people are very, very excited. So that's a little bit about Wilcox. If you have questions specific to Wilcox, you know, I'd love to answer them. But I know that you want to get up. I do have Mia and Cruz. I'm not sure where they are. We'll find them quickly. They're the same two that probably helped you find the room. They're going to bring you on your tour today. You're going to actually see a lot of the school because we're going to go up to Health Tech, which is on the 2nd floor. And then you'll walk by all the rest of our trades on the way to the automotive program, which is the second shop we're going to visit today. Okay. We do have culinary. Culinary is open for the restaurant. If you have time to stay for lunch, there's menus over there on that table too. So let me see if I can find our kiddos. If you need to use the restroom, there's a teacher's room, right? Go to the left, and on your left is find the teacher's room, and there's 2 lavatories in there. If you need to do that, you leave everything right here. Yep.